Musicians should not take these things for granted. Hi, I'm a music teacher, and this is my life. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and welcome for those of you who might be new here. If you're not new to the channel, then you may be wondering where I've been for the last little while. I had a little bit of a situation with my health, and all things to say that things are good now, but at one point in time, let's say a week or so, maybe a week and a half ago, I was in a very different spot with my health. So I was inspired by that tough situation to share with you all 5 things that musicians shouldn't take for granted. This goes for singers and instrumentalists of all levels of experience. But before I jump into that list, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss another video. And stay tuned for the last one, because in my opinion, it's probably the #1 thing that gets taken for granted. So today's list is going to be countdown style, and I'm going to start with number 5. And number 5 is time. A lot of people would love to do something like learn a new instrument or set aside time to accomplish their goals. For some people, it's fitness. For others, it's music. But time is such an important resource to have, because if you're, let's say, an adult, right, you might have work commitments, you might have family commitments, but there's only so much time we have in a day. Like money, we can earn that or spend it, or we can always get more later. But time is a finite resource. We don't have an infinite amount of it. And so when time is precious, you have to really decide how you're going to spend it. And so if you're someone who maybe has too many other commitments that you're looking at your time and you just say, no, I can't fit making music into the schedule, sometimes for folks, that's a tough reality, but don't take having extra time to practice for granted, because you should be really appreciative and grateful that you can fit it into your life, because for a lot of people, it's not that easy. Number 4 is space to practice and perform. For some people, they don't have a place to practice. Maybe they live with roommates and so they can't practice at home because they need to be quiet. Or maybe there just isn't a lot of space in their home, so they're limited to something like the living room, which is often a shared space. Or, right, you want to make sure that you also have places to perform. So if that's something where you're maybe contributing at a house of worship, like a church or something else, or maybe you're a student at a school and so you're performing at college or university. But to be able to share music is really a gift. And one of my former music teachers from years ago used to say, like, practicing is great, but what's the good of practice without performing? And practicing definitely has its value. There are people who maybe have severe stage fright, and so for them, the thought of practicing and not performing is perfectly fine for them. But having the space or the opportunity to be able to practice sometimes and also perform can be a great thing. And for a lot of people, performances have the ability to put a specific date in mind, right? Okay, I need to have this piece or this song ready for this recital coming up on such and such a date. So definitely don't take having practice space or performance space for granted. Number 3 is financial resources. Now, if you're a singer, then you don't really have to go out and buy your instrument, but you might be buying things to help take care of your instrument. This could be things like herbal tea and honey. This could be things like lozenges or other types of things that you use to keep your voice healthy. For many instrumentalists, right, you're spending money on your instruments. And if you're a string player, you're buying new strings every now and then, and you have to restring your instrument. Reed players have to buy reeds or materials in order to make reeds, either single or double reeds by hand. But no matter what, having financial resources is a blessing, and it's not something to be taken for granted, right? Because music can be expensive. It can also be affordable when you compare it to some other hobbies like dance or gymnastics, let's say. I can only imagine some of the parents out there thinking about how expensive things like figure skating costumes and dance costumes are. So in the grand scheme of things, music might seem like it's not that much money. But buying things like sheet music and reeds, neck straps, all those other things I was talking about, strings, cork grease, and even paying for music lessons. I've tried to make some videos on this channel about how you can make lessons a bit more affordable, But even if something's affordable, most of the time it still costs money. So if you have the financial resources to enhance your ability to practice music or learn music, definitely don't take it for granted, appreciate it. In the number 2 spot on this list, we have support. What I mean by this is either having supportive audiences or supportive family, people in your life, your circle of friends or family who support what you're doing. I know, as an example, one of my uncles back in the day when I was in high school was really only supportive of me going to school for music because he knew that my goal was to be a teacher. But had I told him that my goal was to be a composer or a professional musician in an orchestra, he would not have been very supportive. And I understand where he's coming from. Realistically, it's more challenging to have a stable income in those kinds of careers. It's possible, but it definitely has its challenges. So I can understand that. But at the same time, I also had some people in high school where when I told them I wanted to go to music and do that for university, I literally had someone in one of my classes ask me, "And what's your backup plan?" And I looked right at her and said, "There is no backup plan," which was true. I knew that I wanted to be a music teacher and I needed to have a music degree in order to do that for it to be my main teaching subject. So I didn't have a backup plan. But I just thought it was really interesting that there were some naysayers out there. But in the grand scheme of life, I had a lot of people rallying behind me and supporting me. And so don't take it for granted if you have support, because I know there are people out there who want to learn an instrument or maybe who want to go to school for music. And there are ways to have a stable income. It's not always as easy as maybe some folks in other careers, but having that support is such a blessing. So don't take it for granted. And the number one thing that I think most musicians take for granted, and I kind of teased this earlier in the video, but it's your health. What I'm sharing in this video is what happened to me last week. So last week, there was a day where I went to work. I felt completely fine in the morning. I taught my first class of the day. And then somewhere between that time and lunchtime, I started to experience back spasms. It was to the point where I couldn't even move within a chair, like move my back off the back of a chair to sit up nice and tall without excruciating pain to the point of tears. I wasn't able to stand, I wasn't able to walk, and I did not pick up my flute for pretty much an entire week. The back spasms were on a Tuesday. I did not pick up my flute until the following Monday, and I did not start to carry my flute and my drum to church rehearsals until the following Thursday. So after more than a week of the back spasms no longer being something that I was dealing with. It involved painkillers. I went and saw my chiropractor, but literally taking deep breaths was painful for me. And so maybe you're someone who's experienced this kind of pain where I've also experienced a time where I completely lost my voice. There were a couple of times where I got a significant cough. I was also dealing with COVID during one of those times. And there are times where you really think, oh my gosh, is my voice ever going to get back to the way it was? Or am I going to be able to play music again or take deep breaths, right? Because as a wind player, when someone tells me to take a deep breath, it's probably deeper of a breath than the average person out there. But most of us don't appreciate our health or our bodies and what we're able to do until that gets taken away from us, whether it's an accident or a condition that all of a sudden comes on and it's something you live with for the rest of your life. So don't take your health for granted. Always be appreciative, even in the troubling times. I remember how grateful I was a few days after to be able to not have any significant pain, provided that I was taking the painkillers recommended to me and with the recommended doses. And then I was able to gradually take fewer of those pain medications. And it got to the point where now I'm back to work, I am walking, I am playing instruments, I'm able to sing, and I don't experience any of that pain. It does mean that I'm listening to my body a lot more when it comes to things like working out, not skipping stretching or foam rolling. Taking care of my body, in my mind, is also going to help me take care of my musicianship, whether that's singing or playing instruments. But definitely do not take your health for granted. So those are the 5 things that I don't think musicians, but maybe anyone, should take for granted. Let me know if you have any other ideas to add to this list in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, give us a follow on Instagram. I'm so happy to be back, and I will see you next time with another brand new video.